This is TodaysMeet.com, and I actually use this tool pretty frequently in my classroom for students. You can use it as a ticket out the door type assignment, or you can actually do it for formative assessments to check to see how much students are understanding while you're going through, a particular unit. You can use it for reflection after you get finished with a unit or a project. So there's actually many ways that you can use Today's Meet. It's what's called a back channel discussion, because you can actually have students going through and making comments. Say you are watching a video clip and you want them to go in and make comments about the video clip while they're watching, or you are teaching a lesson. Students can make particular, mentions about parts they maybe don't understand or aren't clear without having to disrupt the lesson right there. And then you guys can go through and talk about some of the things that the students put in after you are finished with the lesson. So the way to get started, you got two options. You can either go ahead and create an account, which is what I recommend. If you create an account, you can actually save all of these conversations and go back and look at them later. Or if you just want to do something quick, you can go ahead and just get started and pick a name for your room. So I might name my room something like Crocker 2-3 for my second, third block. And I might keep it open for about a week. You don't have to keep it open for this long, but if you want to go back in and look at the transcript, I'll show you how to do that. You want to keep it open long enough so you don't forget, because once the room closes, it's closed and you can't reopen that same room. So let's say for about a week. You'll just go in and open your room, and it'll come up and look like this. You can either give students this TodaysMeet.com Crocker 2-3 URL, and they can just type that right in on their phones. Or what I generally do that I find easier is just to make this into a QR code and just have it up on the board when students come in, so they can just automatically scan that QR code and go right into the Today's Meet. So when it's open like this, everybody has to give themselves a nickname. And you can't have any spaces in your nickname. So I usually tell students just do like your last name and then your first initial. And then they join. It's kind of like Twitter in that you only get 140 characters, so they can't just ramble on and on about what it is they have to say. They have to create, clear and concise posts. And I usually put up a question for them. Like it could be, maybe for a ticket out the door, I might say, name 3 things you learned in our lesson today. And I could say that. And then my students would each go in and they would make comments about 3 things they learned in our lesson today. Another option that I sometimes use for students is when we are doing an introduction to a lesson. We studied the Dark Romantics a few weeks ago, and I was doing an introduction to suspense. So to get us going into talking about specific ideas in suspense, I just asked them, okay, what makes stories or movies suspenseful? Okay, and then they would go in and they would make specific comments about, why this is suspenseful, what makes it suspenseful. And you have to create specific parameters for students. I usually tell them, okay, everybody has to go in and make one comment, and they have to use their actual name, because if they don't use their name, then they don't get credit for the assignment. And you can actually delete any comments if you are the owner of this, and any, people out of the chat that just aren't really participating. So if anybody is doing silly things, you just go in and you'll delete their comment out of there. This is another thing you have to do with the account. So let me just go ahead and log in so I can show you some of those features. All right, so you can see over here, these are some rooms that I have previously created with my students. This is the page that looks like when you actually have an account and you log in. So you do the same thing. You do your name, how long do you want to keep your room open, and then who can join. So you can be specific to only logged in users or only my school. That one you have to sign up for teacher tools. But you can be more specific about what's going on. When you actually go in your room, you can see these are all the rooms that I've used, and they are actually closed. But let's take a look at one. So you can see this room is permanently closed. So I actually can't go back in and access the transcript. Let's see. But if the room is still open, like this one, you can click into it. Oops, sorry. If it's still open, you have a couple options. These lines right here, these will show you the actual transcript. So you can click into those, see the transcript right here of everything you've done, and you can print this. So you don't have to just grade it right that second. You can print it out and then go back later and actually, give credit to those students and see what they have actually put in. So that is how I generally use Today's Meet. My kids like it. It took a little bit of getting used to the first time that we used it. Had to get them in the hang of, okay, make sure you're not putting in silly things. Make sure you're actually participating. Make sure you are, doing what you need to do and not just typing in things that aren't relevant to our conversation. Another option you as the facilitator has, you can get a QR code for this room right here when you create it. You can just go like that. That's how you give your kids a QR code. You can also, let me do this. You can also open it up on, if you have a smart board, under Room Tools, you can make it a projector color or projector view. And that way it shows up on your smartboard. Everybody can see what people are posting. And this is where I was talking about. You can just go in and delete those comments that aren't relevant to whatever it is that you guys are actually doing. So if you have any questions about how to use Today's Meet, my kids really like it. I get a lot of participation from some of those students who don't normally otherwise want to raise their hand and participate in these kind of discussions. They feel more comfortable and confident in just typing their answers. I also have students go in and make comments to one another. So they would just say, at so-and-so, I disagree with your response because, or whatever it is that they have to say. So thank you for listening.